Whoa, what a great crowd of people we've got here in our studio. This is going to be a great week because 70 years ago this week, a miracle happened. After 2,000 years of bitter exile and near extinction, the nation of Israel was restored as a nation. And in another extraordinary moment, the United States finally officially recognized Jerusalem as the undisputed capital of the Jewish state by formally moving its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, by law, since 1996, we were supposed to move the embassy, but there was an escape clause that gave the president the option of delaying the actual recognition that Jerusalem is the ancient, indigenous, historic, biblical, and rightful capital of the nation of Israel. No other nation has ever had Jerusalem as its capital. None. But for the past 22 years, every American president, Democrat and Republican, had delayed that which divided the rancorous U.S. Senate as recently as 8 months ago. They voted without opposition to affirm recognizing Jerusalem as the capital and moving our embassy there. Now, that in itself was a miracle for the Senate to vote on anything. But justice delayed is sometimes justice denied. And whether you like President Trump or not, he, like every other president since 1996, has promised to move the embassy. But unlike every other president, he is actually doing it. Good for him. Now, if you wonder why that even matters, let me list a few reasons. First, because it means America can be trusted to keep its word. After all, if we don't keep our word to our close allies like Israel, how in the world can we be expected ever to keep our word to the rest of the world, be it friend or foe? I will assure you that notice is being paid not only in the capitals of our friends like the UK, France, and Japan, but also in the highest levels of government of our foes like North Korea, Syria, or Russia. They're used to America saying one thing but then doing another, whether moving an embassy or threatening to act if a red line of chemical weapons were deployed against innocent children and civilians. In the past few years, world leaders were certain that such promises or even threats was just a bunch of saber-rattling or political theater. Today, the craters from the bombs dropped on the chemical weapons storage facilities and the harsh sanctions on Russia have made very clear that President Trump is not to be played as a chump. Our previous wussy foreign policy strategy has been replaced by resolve, strength, and action. But the whole move of the embassy is important, even if the politics or optics didn't matter. Now, for those of us who believe that the Bible hasn't been repealed or replaced, by the way, neither is Obamacare, but that's another story for another time. But the fact is, there is the matter of the promise of Scripture that those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. Now, while modernists believe these promises no longer apply, remember that many of the same people think that a black-robed panel of 5 lawyers in the majority can redefine marriage with a stroke of a pen, are determined that we can engage in what amounts to the genocide of 60 million babies in a decision that was as repulsive as the child sacrifices of the Babylonians. For the United States, whether intentionally or not, to act so as to invoke God's blessing is, as a certain president might say, huge. I've made many journeys to Israel over the past 45 years, dating back to 1973 when I went as a 17-year-old. I usually go 4 or 5 times a year now and never cease to be amazed as I watch the dry bones live again and the desert bloom. But when I'm on hand this week to witness firsthand the 70th anniversary of the return of the land and the U.S. recognition of its rightful capital, I'm going to stand in awe of a God who kept his promises to his people and a president who kept his promise to his people.